Welcome to another Apollo Papyrus podcast episode. I am Aaron Apollo Camp. For this episode, my interview guest is an author, poet, and family coach who overcame schizophrenia to earn a college degree in English literature. His name is Dale E. Walsh, and my interview with Dale will follow the note-taking sounds. Dale Walsh, or D.E. Walsh, welcome to the Apollo Papyrus podcast.
Thank you, Aaron. How are you?
I'm doing fine. My first question, what has your struggle with schizophrenia been like, and how were you able to overcome that to earn a college degree in English literature?
It's a rather involved story, and to tell you the truth, this is usually what I talk about on podcasts, but basically, I was taken away, I was removed and hospitalized from Dartmouth College in 1975 for divine delusions, hospitalized. I spent 5 years in a residential program for adolescents and young adults where I had intensive therapy, three individual sessions a week, 2 group sessions a week, and during that 5.5 years, I was hospitalized 9 times, but then I got my own, after, when the doctor thought I was ready, I got my own apartment, and I've been in the apartment since 1981, went back to Fairleigh Dickinson after Dartmouth College, which is where I was taken away from, graduated 4 years later, magna cum laude in English because I'd always wanted to be a writer, and then I basically began a career as an entrepreneur, helping Fairleigh Dickinson students write papers until I was on disability since 1986. So basically, I graduated college and went on disability. So there was a period where I was doing nothing, and then I was always writing. I decided on my 10th birthday I wanted to be a writer. So I've always been writing, but basically I was just like being degenerate and like smoking pot and drinking beer all day for a while. And then my parents died, and before they died, I went straight sane and sober. And then I joined a big insurance company for about 3 years, and now I'm ready to mentor the family caregivers of those with schizophrenia.
You've written multiple novels as well as more than 5,000 individual poems. And I have the next 3 questions are going to be about that. Without spoiling too much about your novels, what are each of them called and what are each of them about?
Okay, well, my title, people say my titles are a book into themselves. So the first one is called Slick Dynamo's Circus, or The Thinking God's Guide to Frisbee. And my former girlfriend defined it as a series of 1-page autobiographical sketches. So that's about 140 pages. Then I wrote a basically, like super future war novel called Spellsweet's Consort, or The Intrepid Trooper's Guide to Mushrooms. And then I came upon this idea of a trilogy, and the trilogy is the Velvet Velour's Follies trilogy. And the 3 books of that is The Lazy Man's Guide to Babies, The Flight of the Dialina, which is Dale's spaceship, and then The Last Leg of Ishkabab, which is Rockstar Heaven, which is where the Dialina is headed. And then I actually also wrote a supplemental novel called Flash Rashing's Festival, or The Conscientious Commander's Guide to Navigation.
Regarding your poems, we don't have enough time for you to name all 5,000 or so of them, but what are some subjects or topics that you've written poetry about?
Well, my poetry has been very, very deeply affected by my mental health recovery and my mental illness, struggle. And a lot of times it was like writing was like the only consolation I could find for the deep feelings that were coming up in me. And so poetry has been, basically has like three or four major themes. One is romance, and the more medieval or Middle Ages, sort of like a knight in shining armor type of romance. And then there's God and faith. I write a lot about like my relationship to God, and how God affects the world and everything. And then there's like some political stuff, but basically, I've always been guided by whoever my muse is. I've been very fortunate as a writer, as a poet, I to always have a muse who I could turn my inspirational talent towards.
Now, of your books that have been published, are they independently, traditionally, or hybrid published, or did you use multiple publishing methods?
I just use Amazon, Aaron.
Okay, so Kindle Direct Publishing.
Right.
Okay. My next question is more general about your writing. What motivates you to write?
Well, as I said, on my 10th birthday, I decided I was going to be a writer, and basically, I never deviated from that calling. I just felt it was like, the more I worked on it, the more I developed my talent, better I became, and the more enthusiastic I became, and because of it. And actually, I changed from novels to poetry when I graduated college in 1985, and that was for a couple of reasons. One is I was losing my concentration to like really focus on like a long-term project like a novel, and secondly, I just felt that for my message, poetry was more conducive to expressing succinctly the ideas that I wanted people to understand about not only myself but about the world and God and love.
How does your schizophrenia affect your ability to write literature?
Well, that's a subject that many scientists and researchers have looked into, and there's a great disagreement. But I would say that with me, the schizophrenia gave me the motivation to stick to my vision of being a writer. I mean, what I say is one of the ironies of my illness is it basically freed me from the. I was very fortunate that my parents were able to support me both financially, emotionally. They never gave up on me, and they were total saints, and that's actually why I went into mentoring family members. But my family never gave up, so basically writing or the illness gave me the opportunity to escape the quote rat race, because I didn't have to worry about money, so that I could devote myself to my writing.
As you mentioned in your introduction, you graduated from Fairleigh Dickinson University with a degree in English literature. How has your education in English literature helped you write books and poems?
To tell you the truth, I don't read that much, and I meant the education gave me a very solid foundation, and like the traditions and the knowledge about poetry and writing, not only poetry, but also like literature and prose and stuff. So it gave me a perspective, but it also just sort of like inspired me to say, I'm going to do this myself. So basically, since I got out of college, I haven't read a book of poetry myself. I just like produce whatever I produce, and my creative process is usually I just get like one or two lines in my head, and I have like probably 8 different forms that I've developed over time, like rhyme and unrhymed and, like different meters and everything. And so basically I just like get these one or two first lines, and then I build from those lines through the form I'm using into a complete poem. And that's how I've just been able to produce so many.
For the second part of this interview, I'm going to ask some questions about or related to your work as a family coach for those who have loved ones with schizophrenia, like what you have. What is it like to coach families who have loved ones with schizophrenia?
Well, just to clarify, Aaron, the correct pronunciation is schizophrenia.
Schizophrenia. I thank you for correcting me.
But so the my goal. Well, I came up with this idea about 7 years ago because I was thinking about my recovery and my family and everything. I realized how deeply, like, just how deeply I had affected, how deeply the illness had affected my family, and just what they'd gone through with me. Not only when I was with them, but also just like their thoughts and their concern for me and everything. And I was very fortunate in that my family found a program where basically I was taken care of by a doctor, but I just thought, what about all these people who are living with people with loved ones with schizophrenia who have no idea what the illness is about, how to go about dealing with it, because schizophrenia is it's not only mysterious, but it's also one of the greatest fear-inducing illnesses that exists, if not the greatest fear-inducing illness. So this led to some time, and then God downloaded me this program. It's called Live Love, and Live Love is an anagram that stands for Learn, Integrate, Validate, Explore, Listen, Observe, Value, and Express. So it's like a complete package. But the goal of Live Love is not necessarily to improve the condition of the diagnosee. It's to help the family grow and transform so that their perception, not only of their loved ones, but of themselves, is changed so that it's a much more conducive and better environment for communication and growth for the loved one.
What is typically the greatest challenge the clients you coach face, and what are some other major challenges they often face as well?
Well, one distinction we have to make, Aaron, is that there are a lot, there are schizophrenics who live with their family, and they take their medication and they get along pretty well, and that's one set of clients. But the other set of clients is in a much worse situation because their loved ones, because of their mental illness, are going in and out of jail, on the streets, without medication, without treatment, and it really is like becoming an epidemic of people with severe mental illness just being ignored and basically being thrown on the street and everything. So that being said, the thing that I usually deal with families who have their loved one living with them. So their biggest problem is just like trying to understand how to approach and how to communicate and increase the comfort level in the environment so that the loved one, can sort of like get back to self, or improve in recovery. But I took a advocacy course from this place called the Treatment Advocacy Center, and it was a 12-week course. And the problems and I don't like being a negative Nelly, but the problems and the dilemmas, not only governmentally, legislatively, but also personally and just like mentally within the people who are diagnosed, are so myriad and so complex. It's hard to really answer that question, coherently, just because there's so many issues that take place. But the short answer is frustration, anger, communication skills, and also codependency and loss of self due to being too much of a caregiver.
The next couple of questions are about schizophrenia itself. Why is alcohol and recreational drug use dangerous for people with schizophrenia?
Well, frankly, Aaron, I feel, I drank beer and smoked pot for 35 years, and I used the pot as self-medication, and people would say marijuana is terrible for you, don't do it, it's causing you to go psychotic and everything. And this is just my own case. I'm not advocating for anything here, but I'm just saying in my own case, marijuana was like for a long time was a necessary supplement to my medication, because it would take away the chemical edge of the psychotic medication I knew I had to take. So I'm on medication for life. I've in the last 5 years, I've gone from 30 milligrams of my antipsychotic to 10 milligrams a day. So I'm basically in my basic level. But fact is that the medication, it's very strong, and so it has like a chemical side effect that isn't helped by the side effect medication that the doctors give you. And marijuana was the answer to getting relaxed and getting away from that feeling of pressure or oppression due to the antipsychotic.
I'm asking this question with the understanding that schizophrenia cannot be fully cured from anyone. What does recovery from schizophrenia look like?
That's a very good question, and I, I like to think of myself as the example of what schizophrenia can come out as. I mean, that's why I get on podcasts. That's why I'm trying to grow my speaking career and everything, just to show people that no matter how much you demonize someone for who they are, there's a potential, and God is always looking after us, and therefore recovery for me has been an integration of the 5 personalities that I feel make up my basic self.
One final question. What is the best advice you could offer to those who have one or more loved ones who are schizophrenic?
This is something that I always emphasize: patience, love, hope, and faith. You have to, you have to turn to whoever your higher source is and just ask for greater hope, patience, faith, and love. And patience is probably the most important one, because dealing with a loved one with schizophrenia can be very stressful, and you have to be aware that this isn't a 2-week cold. This is something that's going to be chronic and lifelong. So therefore, you have to basically learn how to get into a different rhythm of understanding yourself and your loved one, so that you can respond when they try to trigger you rather than react. And that's the best advice I can give is respond, don't react.
Dale, thank you for appearing on the Apollo Papyrus podcast. You were an amazing guest to interview.
Well, I appreciate that, Aaron. And actually, in my introduction, I usually do a poem. I have an introductory poem that basically tells what happened at Dartmouth and how my psychiatric journey began. If you would like to hear that, we could close it off with that.
Sure.
Okay, this is called Dale Reviewing What Actually Happened, and it goes like this. Hi, I'm God was a joke I made after Killer Dartmouth toke of some primo Ivy League smoke, which apparently caused me to croak because in mental hospital I awoke with Roomy Gabriel, the main bloke who did my delusions angelically stroke. Even while doctor claimed my brain broke the moment divine gag I spoke, testifying I was only big quack, which clinicians diagnosed as psychotic attack, preventing me from getting sanity back until I came to Teaneck Hackensack to pursue resident therapy program track and deal with my evident lack of reason among psychiatric patient pack who never gave me any slack. Under interrogation, the story didn't crack.
That was a wonderful poem, and I thank you for appearing on the Apollo Papyrus podcast.
And thank you for having me. It's been an honor, and take care, and thank you very much.
It was wonderful to interview Dale about his work as a writer and so much more. This is Aaron Apollo Camp reminding you all to find your writing and reading purpose. Bye for now. This podcast episode is intended for the private listening of our audience. Any reuse or retransmission of this podcast episode without the express written consent of the podcast host is prohibited except under fair use guidelines. Royalty-free music and sound effects obtained from https://www.zapsplat.com.